Hi, I'm James the Light Guy, and today we're going to take a look at 4 bulbs and compare them in a competition to see how each of them performs. Our first bulb is the Sylvania H1 Basic. Next is a Sylvania Silverstar Ultra H1, followed by OPT7's Fluxbeam X V2 in H1, and OPT7's Bullet R HID kit in H1 6000K. To make sure everything is fair, we're going to mount each of them into the clamp and check them without a housing, comparing brightness and electrical draw. And then we're going to put them all into this H1 housing at this distance and measure into our light sensor, which is shielded from most of the ambient light, to see how each of them performs. Let's get started with the Sylvania Basic H1. Okay, for now I have moved everything else out of the way. We're going to cut this packaging open, get this bulb into the clamp, and see how it performs. Alright, let's take a quick peek at the bulb. It is a standard glass housing with tungsten filament. The positive terminal at the bottom and negative is the base. Let's clamp that up. Alright, let's turn on the power and see how we are. Alright, we're at 14.4 volts operational, and you can see we're drawing about 5 amps, 4.92 at present. The bulb is reasonably bright. I'm going to slide it back and center it on our light sensor. Let's turn this on. And with our light sensor set to ×10, you can see that we are measuring 252 lux. Alright, that's good for our free air test. Let's move on to the next bulb. Alright, our next bulb is the Silverstar Ultra. Let's get this package opened up and check out this bulb. Alright, like the Sylvania Basic H1, this is a glass fixture with a tungsten filament, but it has a blue coating on each. Let's grab back that original H1 and see, there don't appear to be any extra windings in the filament. If we can, don't think I can get that to focus right now. Let's see how much brighter a bulb that costs almost 3 times as much will do. Alright, our bulb is in the same position. Let's fire up the power supply. Well, it certainly looks brighter to the eye, and we can see at 14.4 volts we are drawing half an amp more. Let's turn on the power supply, not the power supply, forgive me, the lux meter, and see where we're at. Again, measuring at times 10, you can see on the meter we are getting 400 lux, significantly higher than the basic. As often is the case with brighter halogen, the brighter the bulb, the shorter the lifespan. A trade-off that many people, myself included, are willing to sacrifice. Let's move on to the next bulb. Our third bulb is OPT7's Fluxbeam X V2 LED. I did a review on this bulb in a previous video, and there's a link to that in the description below. Let's get it in the clamp and see how it measures up. Alright, that one fought with me to stay in the clamp, but now that it's in, let's turn on the power supply. Alright, we're drawing significantly less amps, drawing about 1 amp at 14.4 volts. You can see that I currently have it pointed at the lux meter's sensor, giving us a bit of a dark spot, but not much. And you can see the shadow cast on the back wall there. Let's turn on our light meter and see where we're at. Alright, looks like we're getting about 410, and you can hear the fan going. Obviously the glass and metal housings of the Sylvania bulbs didn't have a fan, so no fan noise. Let's move on to our final bulb. The fourth and final bulb for the open air test is the Xenon H1 in 6000K, and we will be powering it with OPT7's Bullet R ballast. Let's get it in the clamp. Alright, let's fire up the power supply. While we let that bulb warm up, I did a review on OPT7's Bullet R HID kits. I'll link that video in the description as well. We can take a look at the power display as it warms up. When we first turned it on, it peaked at 3 amps and is slowly working its way down to around 2.6. It'll bounce between 2.6 and 2.7 amps. let's turn on our light meter and see where we're at. Again, at times 10, we're measuring 430 lumens. Alright, let's get the first bulb into the housing. Alright, for these tests we had to spin our testing rig around to get the light sensor far enough off the table to measure things. The first bulb we're going to test is the Sylvania Basic H1. Let's get it in the housing. Alright, let's power up the bulb. Alright, you can see at 14 volts we're still drawing just shy of 5 amps. Let's bring our meter in. This time we're going to be measuring at times 100, and let's set this to peak. Let's move this light around and see where we can get it to land. Alright, I don't know why peak wasn't holding, but it looked like it was about 600 at max. It's holding at 593 presently, so we'll call it 600 for this test. Next, let's take a look at the beam pattern. You can see in low beam we have a nice gentle spread, no dark spots. We have a general area of brightness with a peak hotspot in the center. Let's trigger our high beam, and you can see we just get a nice even spread. Alright, let's check out the next bulb. Alright, the second bulb to check is the Sylvania Silverstar Ultra H1. Let's throw it in the housing. Alright, let's power it up. Bring our meter back in. Again, measuring at 100 times. Let's move this light around and set this to peak hold. Alright, although it was hard to find, there was a peak of 836, and nominally I said it was around, or I would say it would be around 700. Let's take a look at the beam pattern against the backdrop. We have an identical beam pattern to the basic. Nice even spread with a gradient of light. We have a small hot spot in the center. Let's trigger the high beam. Again, it just is a nice balanced spread. Let's put in the next bulb. Next is OPT7's Fluxbeam X V2 LED bulb. Let's get this in the housing. Alright, let's power up the bulb and see where we're at. Again, drawing just shy of 1 amp. Let's get our meter into view. Almost there. There we go. And measuring at times 100, set to peak. After all that, I saw a peak of maybe about 250. Seems a bit depressing. Let's give it another test. $264, $273 peak, $273 was the max I could get. Let's take a look at the beam pattern and see if we can figure out what's going on. Here you can see we have a very dark spot in the center down here, and the gradient is virtually non-existent. Actually, you guys can see that a little bit better on film than I can, but instead of having a hot spot in the middle from the halogen bulbs, we have a more even light all the way across. Let's trigger our high beam and see what the beam pattern looks like. A huge amount of light is cast upward, making me believe that these bulbs would be best suited for a high beam application. Let's throw in the next bulb. Our final bulb to check is the Xenon HID H1 in 6000K, powered by our OPT7 Bullet R ballast. Let's get it in the housing. Alright, let's power it up. Alright, this time we peaked at 3.5 amps on startup. And we're going to give that a minute to reach full brightness. In the meantime, let's see how it's doing on the power meter. Again, measuring at times 100, we'll hit peak. Alright, so far it looks like 233, or 232 rather. Let's give that another minute, see if it gets any brighter. Looks like we managed to get it up to 286, and we'll call that bright. Now let's take a look at the beam pattern. As was the case with the LED, you can see that we have a very even spread from edge to edge, all at that full brightness. And if we hit our high beam, it would help if I hit the right button. There we go. You can see our high beam doesn't have quite as even a spread. There's a little shadowed notch where the terminal extending to the other side of the bulb crosses the beam path. Alright, let's do a recap, shall we? What we've learned in today's video is that peak brightness does not make the best bulb. If you're in the market for a halogen bulb and you're on a budget, the Sylvania Basic will get you down the road. But if you're looking for something brighter and can spend a little more money, the Sylvania Silverstar Ultra does provide a greater amount of light. Next we have the LED bulb. OPT7's Fluxbeam X is a
ideal choice for a high beam bulb, as it provides a near instantaneous illumination, and with an even beam pattern, although its peak hotspot is less bright than Sylvania. On the wings, it is more even, giving you a clearer field of view. When it comes to low beam, my recommendation is, of course, a xenon bulb. OPT7's Bullet R ballast is very stable, and we saw that it had a very even shed of light across the entire beam that was higher than the LED. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. That's all I have time for today. If you did enjoy the video, consider hitting that like button and subscribing for more content. Share with your friends, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.